There's a big discussion going on about the price of housing and the housing shortage. How people can't afford to get in houses anymore. And that's true, but it's got a lot more to do with the way we see a house now as compared to when they were considered more affordable. Now you get into people build houses to impress their neighbors. Pride gets into this. I'm just so proud of my new house. Just look how big it is. Yeah, that entry door cost me $25,000. That sit up there. That's foolish, but that's it. That's just pride. That's one of the original sins, Pride and envy and greed are the three that score in this. They're the reason that people people can't afford housing anymore. Back in the old days, back in the beginning, a caveman would go out and find him a hole in the ground and he'd live in it. His home was made. All he had to do then was try to keep from getting killed or starved to death, eat by a bear. But then we moved along. The pioneers came here. I think Abraham Lincoln lived under a rock the first winter in Kentucky, maybe. And maybe it was when they moved to Illinois. Anyway, the pioneers go out and build them a log cabin, have it done in just a few days, have a house raised and have it done in a weekend. And then they had their home. All they had to do was worry about not starving to death or you getting killed by savages or something. Now we've got to have something we can be proud of. So what people will do, they will buy, if they're going to build their house, it's not already built for them, they'll buy them a piece of land, something small, and then build the biggest, most expensive mansion they can afford right there on it, and then they're jammed up right against their neighbors, and they're not happy with it, but they're proud of it. And they envy their neighbors because they got a new deck and they have to have one. And they envy them because they've got a concrete driveway as opposed to pavement, so they've got to get that done too. And then greed comes into it. The way greed fits in, I'm jammed right up against my neighbor and he's doing something I don't like. So I want to pass a law or a regulation against that so I can control his stuff to suit me too. Thomas Sowell, I read a piece by him several years ago about at his home, out the rear, he had a beautiful view of a forest, but somebody come and cut the forest down. And yeah, that view was his to enjoy, but he didn't own it, and he didn't feel like he should control it. They tax him for his house, and his home is taxed more expensively because of the view. And when the view goes down, his property assessment goes down, his value, because the view is no longer there. But was he paying the guy for the view? He should have been paying part of the taxes for that guy. Anyway, when I was growing up out here in the country, so many times I'd see a couple starting out would dig a basement and build the walls, maybe themselves or contract somebody, but they paid as they went. When they got the basement constructed, they put a floor over it for the next part, but then they'd put a cover over that so that they could live in that basement till they could afford the house. And after they'd saved up enough money and got the time, they dried in a house up the top. They still lived in the basement while they continued to finish and neighbors pay as they go. When it was finished, they moved upstairs and it was complete. Now it wasn't necessarily something to be envious of, but it was warm and dry, safe from bears and it's paid for. Now, the main thing went wrong with that process was they didn't owe the bank. So the bank wanted their hand in it. They wanted to lend money. Of course they did. So not only did the bank have an interest in slowing down this process and indebting the home builder or homeowner, the insurance company did too, because you can't have a mortgage without insurance. And so the insurance company came in. And then when you do all that, of course, you're going to have regulations and zoning and whatnot. So you have to have somebody to administer that. And so you get the regulators in, all those jobs. And politicians, see? And dirty politicians love it because the more money circulating, the more seems to come their way. So you can just simplify and salvage this housing crisis by just going back to basic needs and pay as you go. I'll do some more on that later, but that's enough for now. I just think we've been fighting the wrong battles. These sins of pride and envy and greed are the reason you can't afford a house, believe it or not. This is not a religious sermon. It's just an old hillbilly talking. Come here.